Hi, darling.
Yeah, doing okay. How are you?
Good.
I just had a little asthma attack, so I decided after my nebulizer I would do the Zoom on my bed here.
Awesome. Oh, look at Kim's fancy picture for her little placeholder picture.
I don't know how to do that.
Start video. There we go. Okay. Ooh, that's too much sunlight. I gotta move this way. Getting better.
All right. I am getting set up. I'm getting the information for you.
Okay. Awesome.
There we go.
Okay. So what Isabel asked us to talk about today was basically managing your customers and your team, if you have a team, or you're trying to work with a group online. And so it's managing your team and customer service. So the one thing probably before we get started is I'm going to talk for a little bit and then we'll have time for questions and answers. So if you want to go and mute yourselves, if you put your cursor over the self, you will, there's, at least in my version, there's 3 dots, and then you can mute yourself. All right, there we go. Everybody's muted but me, just the way I like it. Okay, so I think, will it let me advance the slide or do you have to advance the slide? There we go. So first of all, I just wanted to check in with everybody. And this was a quote that we had on our C3 page. So far, I think I know everybody that's here. Yep. So what basically right now we're all venturing outside our comfort zone a lot, right? And we're probably in like maximum potential discomfort just with so much uncertainty. Ironically, everyone right now on the call has had some kind of chronic or ongoing illness where they've had to figure out how to do things from home and adjust their schedules before. So I feel like the whole world is getting to experience what maybe some of our lives feel like when you have something chronic and you're like, oh, I have to cancel. Oh, I can't be there. Oh, so sorry. Rapunzel, Entangled said, venture outside your comfort zone, the rewards are worth it. So a lot of the kind of national venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, people that make big changes and invent stuff are all saying this is the time when that happens. When you really have to think differently. How are you going to do things differently? Everyone who knows me knows I don't like to be on camera. I didn't do a lot of webinars. We didn't do a lot of online training, but I've gotten more comfortable with it. One thing, since we're all gals, I will say is you cannot, if you're the presenter, like cannot put too much makeup on. I have eyeliner on like I should be at the club in the 80s. And we're not in the club in the 80s, but it doesn't look like I have that much on. So if you're presenting and you're like, I don't like how I look on video, put gobs more makeup on than you ever thought you'd wear anywhere. You know, like the 80s blush, the 80s eyes, and you wouldn't know like to look at me, but I have gobs of makeup on. So that's just an option there. Next slide, please. So one of the things is, what are people doing online? So obviously people are on home, they're spending a lot of time on their phones, they're spending a lot of time on the internet. Where are they hanging out? So this slide I think is really interesting because it shows you, oh, pardon my dog, someone probably just came in the house. It shows you what people are doing online by age demographic. So if you know you have certain customers that you work with, and so for example, oh, like you can see where I'm pointing. No, okay. So on the far right is the boomers. And I think it's interesting if you look at the things that they're scoring, you know, over 25% of them, these are all increases, right? Like, did they increase their activity during this time? So this is some really interesting data. So if you knew that you had you were doing retirement planning, right? And you needed to work with Gen X and say your time's almost out, or you needed to work with millennials and say, hey, you need to be thinking about this. What are they doing online right now, right? So, you know, this does not surprise, well, it surprises me a little. I asked, my kids are Gen Z, they're teenagers, and basically they're listening to music, right? They listen to music. My son said, he said, I don't care about like the death toll numbers and how many people are sick, but I dug in like, well, what do you mean you don't care? Like, I know you're a caring person. He said, I'm staying home. That's what I can do. I'm not asking to go anywhere. I'm not seeing anybody. I'm doing my part. I'm staying home. The rest of it isn't anything I can control or do. And I thought, you know, for 17, that's pretty decent. You know what I mean? Like, so he is thinking of other people, but he's like, I don't need to hear 5,000 people here, 10,000 people there. So I thought that was interesting. And they are just basically, you know, watching funny movies, watching shows, playing games. I mean, boomers are up 34% and they're playing games on mobile right now, right? So if you're reaching out to your customers, and my customer base was mostly say 50 plus, I might share an email that says, have you seen this new game? It's pretty fun, right? Even though it's not directly related to my business, I want to share information and let them know, hey, a lot more people are online gaming. Have you seen, you know, thus and so? My generation, a lot of people did Farmville like 6 or 7 years ago on Facebook. And so that might be a way, or, oh, did you notice that Spotify is offering streaming music for free? You tried logging into it, right? So now, obviously, if you don't use Spotify or you aren't playing a game, that doesn't work. But it just shows you those are the kind of things that older generation is spending their time online doing. Something they're not doing right now, it's increased a little bit, but if you scroll down, like if you were like, now's the time, I'm going to launch my podcast. Well, if your age range you were targeting were millennials, great. If your age range you were targeting is boomers, no, they're not right now listening to any more podcasts than they were before. So this just gives you some ideas, and we'll get more and more statistics like this coming out. You know, nobody's really increasing searching for vacation stuff, right? Because we can't travel. Okay, so next slide. Oh my gosh, we lost Isabel. What, let me share my screen? Oh no. Okay, there we go. She's back. Subscription services. So I thought this was interesting. This shows you percent of people who would consider paying for a subscription they didn't have before the outbreak. So it breaks it down by Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and boomers. And what you will notice is this big giant purple circle in the center. If you can't see the number, it says 80%. So 80% of boomers did not subscribe to anything new right now. And I think that's really telling, because if, say I was a coach and I was working with people who were caretakers of their significant other, and I thought I had a fair amount of boomers and I wanted them to pay for a subscription, we can tell behaviorally they're not paying for new stuff right now. So that's a great business model. So use these statistics as you see fit. I do think it's interesting that Gen Z, which is my kids' generation, had a 30% uptick in Netflix, right? So a little bit older, like college kids are in Gen Z. So it's just sort of interesting to look at. Millennials bought more of everything, right? So they're obviously, millennials are talking about mid-30s. They are up by 20%, 15 to 20% on every platform they could be up on buying. So that shows that they have discretionary income and they're purchasing subscriptions right now. So if I were trying to sell a subscription for a really cool storytelling, art, dance, online group for kids under 5, and my target market were millennial parents, they might buy a subscription to that right now, right? Because they're home with kids, they don't have daycare, they don't have school, and I can see purchasing wise, they're buying subscriptions. So that's why a piece of data like this can be useful. And it's just kind of interesting, truthfully, to kind of see what are people doing right now. The most that happened with boomers was 5% increase on Netflix and 5% on the New York Times. I mean, they're not spending money. The other thing could be they already have a lot of subscriptions. Like my mom has the subscriptions to everything already, right? Because she's a boomer and she's a media person and she stays at home. So she has Netflix, she has Prime, she has Hulu, and she has all the upgraded ones, you know. So next slide, please, Isabel. So the question becomes, where is your ideal client, right? So as far as for working with your clients, how have you worked with them before? If you did a lot of in-person events, right? Like, so Two Busy Gals did a ton of in-person events, right? So we were like, if you named it, we were there, right? You were meeting people, you were seeing Lisa, you were seeing Joanne, we were at networking events, we did workshops, we had classes, we were everywhere. Well, now there's nowhere to go. So our model was very based, and we've had to pivot a lot to figure out how are we going to make this work on this, because we have this to-go model and we don't have a to-go way. So we started looking at, I heard some great information yesterday that I thought was just fascinating. This was, I highly recommend it. Pick a couple days a week that you work on your professional development, because there's so many really awesome webinars out there. Yesterday, AnchorWave had a really interesting webinar. It was recorded. They have a group that you can join and promote each other and ask questions. So obviously, AnchorWave's goal is, you know, if we want to upgrade our websites, we'll work with them. If we want to pay per click, we'll work for them. But they haven't mentioned their website services at all. There's no sale. There's no, you know, close at the end. So what you want to think about is my current customers, or the customers I've had in the last year. Do they know how I'm doing business now? Have I kept them informed of where to find me and what I'm doing right now? So a good way to do that, so no kidding, last week we were on a webinar with an organization, and I said, by the way, you need to update your hours on Google because you're not in the office anymore. And it said the Google had their office hours open like 8 to 5 or whatever it was. If you have different hours, any place that things like your hours are open, if you're a traditional business, you want to make sure that those reflect what you're doing right now. If you've switched, so restaurants have had to make a big pivot here, right? So they're like, hey, we can do to go. And then the governor authorized them to do to go alcohol, which is like, my husband said, are we just throwing every rule out the window? And I said, yeah, maybe we are. So they could do alcohol to go. This week, the governor just did executive order that grocery store or restaurants can sell their product as if they're grocery stores without changing their business license or having to do anything. So if they can order, I was on a call actually with the Hispanic Chamber, and we heard from the owner of Reforma and Union, and then the pizza place there all up there at River and St. Philip's Plaza. And he said that in his way of ordering food, there's not been any disruption. Like, he can order a case of toilet paper, no problem. But he can't, up till today, this week when they changed it, he couldn't sell it. So now he can. So you can see a lot of restaurants are posting, hey, I mean, now, granted, the prices sometimes, if you're really a bargain shopper, are not going to meet your needs, right? You might go, I can get eggs cheaper than that. Oh, I can get milk cheaper than that. However, right now, what are people looking for? Convenience and lack of interacting with humans. If I can drive up to a restaurant and they can bring out milk, eggs, juice, produce, whatever they have, and put it in my trunk, and I pay with my credit card, and I never actually interact with them, they've created a great service to me that I might be willing to pay a little more for, right? So how have you pivoted? How have you changed? Obviously, all of us are moving to video chat and different ways of messaging. So what we're going to do today is talk about, it's why I invited Darla to join us. She said, hey, is there something besides Zoom? What else is out there? And I'm like, yeah, jump over. We're going to talk about some different tools that are out there. I think it's interesting that some products are out there, and Zoom so much enveloped this space right now, right? Because they're not the only product. Isabel, next slide. Okay, so first of all, I want to give you a couple tools with examples of how we use them at Two Busy Gals. So if you have a core group, you have staff, you have contractors, you have a core group of people that you need to make sure you're communicating with regularly. You may, and we'll talk about it a little bit further in the presentation, there's a product called Slack. And so you may hear people say, oh, we're going to do that on Slack. So Slack is used a lot by businesses, typical brick and mortar businesses, corporate businesses. If they're not fully embedded with Microsoft, because Microsoft has some tools, they're probably using Slack to keep track of projects and do group management. So we've been in business 11 years, and a couple different times we've tried project management software. We bought expensive software, we've used free stuff, and everything in between. Lisa's been on board with us a couple years, and she can tell you. And what we found was, because our team was all at least 45, I think, or older, except for our intern, it was just too much learning curve. I felt like we were always learning how to use the tool and not using the tool. So what we did was we used Facebook, because all of us were on Facebook. So what you see on your screen right now is a group chat, right? So if I go to Facebook and I have 4 friends, we're planning a party, and we make a little instant message group chat on Facebook, and then everyone posts in that group chat. Well, you'll see the arrows posting to, it says 2 Busy Gals team. So everyone on our team has instant messenger with Facebook. And what you're looking at on the screen is, I find events all the time. In fact, this was an excellent event. I don't know if they recorded it, but if they did, people definitely go and look that up with Green Valley News, the newspaper. They had a speaker come in who has worked at Disney and trained on marketing, where to market, how to market, should you be on traditional marketing. It was just an excellent workshop. Like, he had really creative, clever ideas, and they didn't all necessarily cost a ton of your budget. So when I found that event on Facebook, because so many events are on Facebook that are in our target market to work with, I share it, right, to Messenger. So I share the event to Messenger, and then you'll see there's a little post. So I shared it, and then down here, Joanne, who's on our team, says all have been added, because there were like 5 things before it. And when she says all have been added, we have a Google Calendar, which is free, which we all access as the team. And when we used to go to 100 million zillion places, we would put it there, right, and decide who on the team was going to go. The other thing that happened is, when we brought Joanne on the team, we realized that she might be out somewhere and have a question from one of our clients, right? So her job is outreach, but she doesn't have to know every technical thing we know about social media. She's supposed to meet people, do lead generation, market for us. So it turns out, if she messages, apparently Lisa, Alexis, and I are just on Facebook all the time. So it was something we were using as a team. So this was a very effective way to communicate as team members. Oh, I have a very itchy nose right now. I'm glad I'm home by myself, touching my face with no one else, and I just washed my hands. Okay, next slide, Isabel. So another way that you can use Facebook is a lot of us are doing Facebook Lives, but you can also, you may be not thinking about, you can record and post a video. So what does that mean? If you go to the Hispanic Chambers page, they've started a series called Your Voice. And in this one of their team members has a virtual interview with George Ferrante, who owns El Cisne. So you can do a whole video that you record, not live. It doesn't have to be your live video. And then you upload it. Or you can use a video as we do with Facebook Live, and then you click the button at the end, and then it'll broadcast it for you. So what's nice is, if you're kind of like, oh, I don't know about Facebook Live, but you can record a video and upload it to Facebook. What's nice about that is you can have a more edited video. You can fix it if you have a flub. So it sort of depends on, and this is useful. I think there's literally over 7,000 likes of the Tucson Hispanic Chamber page. So this is a great tool for them to highlight what member business is. So they know that their members, more than their membership, is online following their page. And what a great way for them to highlight member businesses, when right now, as you know, the way chambers are pivoting is they have to figure out how to serve their members without ever having any get together in person meetings, right? And so what creative ways are they doing that? Next slide, please. Oops, that's a glitchy slide. I guess my picture didn't get in it. We have groups. So I love the picture here, right? So it should be a picture of 2 busy gals. We have a group for our team, right? And it's a secret private group. No one else sees the group, and it's a group for our team. We also have a group called Ask the Gals, which we're going to open up. It was related to a subscription product, but right now we've opened a few of our things up for free, because we feel like it's just important to give back right now. I feel like that's something we can do helpful to our clients and to our community, because everyone's kind of trying to figure out how to keep staying in business, how to keep jobs going, how to keep people employed, heck, how to keep the lights on. So groups are a good way to do that. If you're going to do a VIP group, make sure you give something free to your clients in that group. So yesterday, one of the strategies, the marketer I told you I was in that awesome group thing, and said, so one, you want to make sure, how do people know you're doing your business? Right now, advertising has dropped significantly across all online platforms. That's why you're getting really weird ads. If you've been scrolling through Facebook and you're like, this is the strangest stuff I have ever seen, I have got since this whole outbreak of the illness, I have got something for marketing towards Mormons. It was an LDS product. I got something marketing towards Jewish families. I got something marketing towards people who had porn addictions and what they could do with their porn addiction. And I keep getting these really weird like products that are being sold by companies that I think are made up companies, right? So if your feed feels like there's really weird advertising, that's because the space is a little bit more empty right now. So if you can, and you have a purposeful thing to advertise to your community, this isn't a bad time to spend money on advertising. The speaker yesterday said, you need to think more, not just surviving today, but how are you going to thrive tomorrow? And I love that he said, when people get in a panic mode and they don't want to spend money on advertising because they think they're trimming the fat out of their budget, but that marketing is actually muscle in your budget. So this could be sweat equity, like this doesn't mean you have to put $1 out, but invest your time. Next slide. We'll see what this one is. Oh, okay. So now we are going to get into some of the tools that are available for you to use. So WhatsApp obviously is an app. It's owned by Facebook. Facebook bought it in the last year or two. It's a free service, and it specializes in cross-platform messaging. So what that means is, pardon me. Ooh, we're all glad I'm home alone. So allergies are making everyone paranoid right now. It's like one of the #1 searches on Google. Everybody's like, oh my God, I'm sneezing. Yeah. Okay, WhatsApp is highly used internationally. If you are trying to stay in contact, if you have business or teams or people that you've been working with internationally, it's highly used internationally. It's based on your phone number. You can do video call, you can do phone calls, of course, and you don't pay anything for it because it's just all run on VoIP is basically voice over internet, and it's free. So when people, for a long time, we've been paying for phone calls we didn't need to pay for, basically. It does let people go back and forth between desktop and laptop, so you can go on your desktop. The best feature of WhatsApp is if you have to send really large documents to somebody. Say you have an online catalog and it's got all these gorgeous pictures in it, and you don't want to save a. If that person participates in WhatsApp, it will send it, and it sends it instantly. I did not believe this until I was like, oh, it can't, right? Yeah, sure, it sends it instantly. Well, I had a client send me tons of pictures from Mexico for their Facebook page, and when I went on WhatsApp, on the computer, it worked so much better. They like came through almost instantly. So it has privacy features. It's encrypted end to end if that matters to you. So that's kind of WhatsApp is good for one-on-one communication. There's no group chat feature. And that's kind of how that works. But I wanted to make sure we're going to cover a number of tools that will utilize you in contacting and working across different platforms with different people. Apple FaceTime. So FaceTime only works if you both have iPhones. FaceTime can turn any phone call into a video call with one click. It's not particularly useful for group chats. So you can have, let's see, it will let you have up to 32 users in a group chat. But the challenge is it only works on the phone. And it only works with other iPhone users. So if by chance all of Two Busy Gals team had iPhones, we probably would use this all the time, right? Because we could do a group chat, it would be easy peasy. We don't, so we don't. But this is another way that you can easily integrate. Facebook also has a phone call feature where you can video call each other. It's 50, I've had 50-50 experience with it. Usually it's the button you hit and you go, oh my God, what am I doing? I didn't do my hair or makeup. I just video chatted and we, hit end really fast. So that's kind of, they don't have screen sharing. You can't use it from a desktop. But it does work fairly well if everyone on your team uses. So for some businesses, that would be super useful. Skype. So I've been wondering, with everyone going Zoom, 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 what happened to Skype? Because for a long time we were using Skype. And especially if you worked anywhere corporate, I mean, this was really quite the thing about 10 years ago. So a little bit about what's happened. Skype was purchased by Microsoft in 2011. So Microsoft, when they purchase things, so like WhatsApp and Instagram were purchased by Facebook, but we didn't really know that, right? Unless you were kind of paid attention to tech news. When Microsoft buys stuff, they change the name and everything gets incorporated into Microsoft, and it's like it becomes part of their platform. And that's kind of what happened with Skype. So it is still around. It does work. It's interesting, not that you would use it for this, but so if you have an Xbox gaming system, those are made by Microsoft, and you can Skype through Xbox. On the other hand, if you have teens and you didn't know they could Skype through Xbox, it's another way they could be video engaging with people that you should monitor. So the best thing that's always been for Skype was pre-WhatsApp, pre a lot of apps on phones. Skype was how a lot of people made international phone calls for virtually nothing. And you could put like 10 bucks on the card and they just did virtual international phone calls for almost no money at all. It does have video. It has 4-hour limit and a 50 user limit. But historically, people who use it say it's kind of chunky. It sort of jumps and stops jumping. You don't have to have any software. It's super easy to use. You don't have to install anything new. There is a more robust version, which is sort of Skype for Businesses, which is part of Microsoft. But that probably would only make sense if you were working with people in a corporate setting who were really involved with still using their Outlook, really using Microsoft products. Zoom. So we're on it. We all seem to have, oops, go back one. We're on Zoom, we're on it. We seem to have been, lost our minds with Zoom. If we weren't using it, everyone's using it now. I think the easiest thing has been, we just had to download software one time and you can click the link and get to the video chat, right? People wanted a way to share screens, to share information. And so what's the good things about it? So good things about Zoom is you can have 100 participants on a call on the free version. It lasts usually like between 30 and 40 minutes, and then it's going to cut off. It's just going to disappear. It gives you a countdown as the host, and it's like, this call is ending, and we're going to disappear. So if you are doing something that's less than 40 minutes, great. If you're doing something that's over 40 minutes, you probably want to make sure that you've upgraded to one of the paid versions. It's designed for businesses. There is a private back channel, screen sharing's built in, it has breakout rooms. So on this slide, if you Google best practices for security Zoom meetings and go to the Zoom website, it's gonna go step by step through how to have the most secure page. So you don't end up with someone photobombing, sharing porno on their screen, making up a fake, username, that kind of thing. I mean, for all we know, Kim's not really there and she's gonna start showing stuff on our page. No, I'm just picking on Kim because we're friends. It's pretty inexpensive, as most of us know. Most people seem to be pretty comfortable in using it. My kid, so unbeknownst to me, my child made all these backgrounds. Well, I knew he made backgrounds. So when he installed Zoom and made all these backgrounds on my iPad, if I just log into a Zoom event, it pulls up the crazy background that's his, right? With all this, like, I don't know, it's like a Russian flag and it morphs into penguins, and they're doing a lot of classes on Zoom for school. And so he's just really wants to have like the craziest image when they do the class chats. In fact, he'll put a little, instead of like how you're seeing me, he'll have a teddy bear there or some stuffed animal or some abstract creation. But I don't complain because he gets on all those Zooms for school. So you can use it as an app. You can use it directly on the web. if you're on the web, like if you're on your computer right now, it can have more challenges making the virtual backgrounds. So that kind of depends. They keep almost every day updating something on Zoom. Their stock's gone through the roof. There's tons of people using it. So it's definitely worth finding out about how to use. There's a lot of forms and features to it. For example, you can, there's something that like takes out skin imperfections. There's something, you know, we can Photoshop ourselves and it makes the camera shoot us a little nicer. So there's just a lot of things that you can do with that. Oops. So next, Google Hangouts. So this was the other one I was wondering kind of what happened to Google Hangouts. So again, if you go back about 5 or 6 years, that was the first platform that was free, and you could have video and you could have a bunch of people jump on and share screens. So Google Hangouts went through, it changed its name to Google Meet. It went through a lot of changes, but it's still available. You can launch the video chat directly from Gmail, which means the link could be in an email, and you can chat with up to 25 participants, and there's no time limits. So there's not really any bad side to it. It's they have a chat room where you can hang out. If you aren't paying, you can have 25 people on a video call. And then for like anywhere from $6 to $25, you can have different forms and features like recording your call, done sharing, and can have more users. So there's not really a particular benefit of Zoom. I think used it, knew it worked. They weren't using Google Hangouts anymore, and it was just an easy way for the people who knew how to use it to get out there. Slack. So I don't know how many of you have heard of Slack, but basically, oh, and this is the wrong text in it. My apologies. This is goofy for today. So Slack is basically project management software. So you would use Slack as a team. You would use Slack, could have group chats. You can organize things by hashtags and projects. So this is definitely, you will hear people talk about, oh, let's go to Slack. So it's something that teams are using and groups are using. If you're a solopreneur and you're kind of hanging out doing your own thing, this probably isn't a tool that you're going to be asked to use. If you are a solopreneur who's a consultant and you're brought in to work with an organization, you may be asked to join Slack and use Slack with them. GoToMeetings. Has anybody else? This was the other one I wonder. I'm like, what happened to GoToMeetings? Like everything, it just seemed like every webinar, every discussion you went to was a GoToMeeting. So GoToMeetings is still there. It's still available. They have the free option only allows 6 people to video chat. So that may be why people have drifted away from it. But it certainly was the gold standard for many years. So depending on what you were trying to do and what your budget was, this might be a tool for you. I think, trying to think, the workshop, I've been on 2 GoToMeeting webinars this week. So some people are definitely still using it. Maybe they have subscriptions to it. Again, it's not that hard. Many of us are used to, you would click through, you would join the webinar. Sometimes it was video, sometimes it had a chat feature where people could be chatting. I don't see that anybody's chatting here. That's okay. So we don't have any questions there. So where do we go from here? So at this point, I really wanted to leave time for people to ask questions. If they had any things they wanted, or how we could give you some technical assistance just as part of this call. So Isabel, if you don't mind unmuting people, they can either talk or they could type their question if they prefer.
If everybody can unmute, I've done it, but oh, there we go. I gotcha.
Okay, just unmute yourselves, and now is just the time for you to ask questions, or if there's something that you've been wondering about, or some way we can help you, or you're trying to figure out how to reach out to people. Oh, one thing I learned this week that you may want to do is you can do a Google, it's like a Google search of Google searches, if that makes any sense. So basically, right? So that like sounds so crazy, but it is, you can search basically your category of business in Google, and it will tell you what are people searching for what you do, right? Another thing that you absolutely want to do is announce to people your pivot. So if you're doing something differently, I think the one I've seen the most that's having pretty good engagement would be, and I think all of us know her, is Shelly over at Creative Juice. So she went from, she was having classes, she reduced the size while she couldn't have more than 10 people, so she said 10 people per class. Then she couldn't have people come in the shop, so she was doing the kits and selling them curbside from the shop. And then for a moment she felt like she couldn't do that, but they did say that she can do that. So I think it's just important that people know how your business model has changed. So she gave a lot of free classes, whether people bought the materials online or from her or from somewhere else. And now she's moving towards a couple classes are free. But if you want to go on a Zoom class and interact, there's a small fee. And she had looked also at possibly doing some subscription models, right? So you get a few for free, but if you really want to come and get the class, then she can monetize it through a subscription model. And that might be the Zoom class. I'm not entirely sure if it's just going to be per class or it'll be a subscription. So, but she's continued to announce that. She's done Facebook Live videos, just talking to the screen very compellingly. Here's how I'm doing business now. Here's why we're doing it this way. I think restaurants, of course, are constantly updating what they're doing. The other business I've seen is commercial businesses that used to just sell to restaurants are now selling to private consumers. And so they're trying to make that easier for consumers, announcing how they do it, sharing what they do. So I think that's really useful. So what are, I guess my question to the people participating is, what are the challenges you're finding right now, other than being home and dogs and figuring out video software, that kind of thing? What kind of challenges are you finding with connecting with either your clients or your, people you need to do business with?
I don't know, I'm going to share really quick. I don't know if it's a challenge, but I felt your slide on showing where the activity is, what people are doing based on the demographics is really insightful, because, as you shared, we are, we've been sharing how we're pivoting and helping and, offering to continue to help our members. But the more we know about, like, what are they really focused on, I think the more helpful and more beneficial our sharing can be, our services can be. So I thought that was really great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I like, Isabel, could you talk a little bit about the pivot you guys have done, where you're doing that 10 a.m. kind of a variety, like each day is a different theme and then different businesses. Like one day was exercise, yesterday was meditation. I don't know what today was.
Today was nutrition.
Nutrition.
And so thank you. Well, yes, we, along with continuing to share, important information as all our colleagues and chambers are doing, we wanted to introduce a kind of a respite, make that calm in the storm, and create a place to go for people where they can engage, because there's a lot of, I think, like you said, there's a lot of video, a lot of content being put out, but I think people are still interested in engaging. Like this interaction that we're having right now is an example. People are still interested in engaging, so we were trying to create something that could touch on different topics. And as you described, we did Art Tuesday because, again, art heals, it's, and it's an opportunity to create and think differently. So we did Creative Tuesday, and we're partnering with Mis Manos Montessori School, and they're sharing their perspective, and it was really adorable, and looking forward to next week. I think it's going to be really fun. We are doing Wednesday workouts with Platinum Fitness and partners there. They're also members. And so they've created a 60-day challenge for us to follow, and it's so easy, but trust me, it worked. Very interactive. And as a side note, we are also in talks with the U of A because they are doing a Wellness Wednesday. So we're going to be kind of sharing back and forth information.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so we're going to be obviously promoting their activities, and they're going to be sharing our activities with their community as well. So we're trying to sync up to, you know, what's going on around us, and collaborate as much as possible. Thursday is Thoughtful Thursday, and it's about meditation and yoga, and Friday is Nutrition Friday. Again, partnering with subject matter experts to come and share best practices, you know, how to, you know, everything from how to, you know, create healthy foods from what's in your pantry to, you know, what do you call it? How to help you keep your vegetables, you know, fresh longer. So it's just going to be different things. But again, we've gotten a nice response, and it's just a simple way to, you know, create a haven for our community. And then, of course, the other thing we're doing that you mentioned was the interviews. We're getting, you know, a lot of people call into the office, and they're sharing incredible stories, and we wanted to create a platform for our members to share what's going on, how they're pivoting and what they're accomplishing in their space, and also, you know, be able to, again, give back. We're talking to members, but we've talked to non-members too, so we're just trying to make sure we help.
I just thought it was, for me as a member, that was so creative. Even the graphic, when I saw it, I thought, oh, cool, this is interesting. And then I thought, wow, maybe I'm going to get to know some other member businesses that I don't get to know, or don't get to know what they're doing. I thought, yeah, that was really, I mean, how spot on for Platinum Fitness, right? You know, because what are people going to, from my perspective, like, what are you going to think when we can go back out? Hey, these were the people that said, oh, we're going to give you a class, and we partnered with the chamber. You know, and so we're kind of trying to be mindful of that as well. Like, how can we be of value as business owners to the community, and at the same time, hopefully, you know, provide an opportunity for people, so that when we are back and up and running at full speed, people remember who we are, or we're offering something. Like, one of the things I thought this was interesting, the gentleman yesterday was talking about turning up the volume when you think that, see what other people in your industry are doing. And if they're kind of hesitant, then how do you become more present, right? So instead of everybody being hesitant and seeing what's happening, how do you get out there even more and sort of fill that gap? And so he had a really interesting point, which was, he said, in marketing, and it made me think of an offer we've given, right? And he said, in marketing, people generally don't make a decision, like he gave the equivalent of like the Ginsu knife ad, right? Or the ShamWow guy, right? I'm sure people go to Costco and buy the Vitamix, but that's like a huge purchase if you weren't thinking of it, right? It's like a $300 blender. So if you weren't thinking of a Vitamix, I'm not really sure the guy there making the best smoothies in the world is going to convince me to change, right? Like, I already had to know that existed and maybe be thinking of that purchase. At least for me, a $300 blender is not an impulse buy. Under 20 bucks, you could probably get me with almost anything, right? And if it's something my kids like, if it's thematic, if it's Harry Potter, it's under 20 bucks. I'm like, oh my God, my daughter needs this, right? She's like, stop buying Harry Potter stuff. Like, I can't even use all the stuff I have. But he said, you know, and generally people, they want to be aware of your product. They want to be, have experience with your product. And so right now, what are things we can do as business owners? And the one takeaway I had, so one thing idea he gave, he was the one that said, like, he was so sick of eating chicken. He's down in Atlanta, in Augusta, Georgia. He said, I've never eaten more chicken in my life. And he said, so I went and I wanted to get sushi. And so I drove to the sushi restaurant, and they were closed, and they had extremely adjusted hours. And he said there were 4 cars there that wanted to get it, and it didn't, I mean, obviously it didn't occur to any of them to look online before they went. They just presumed they'd be open. But he said nothing online said that they weren't open, right? And he goes, so that's a huge missed opportunity. Why would I go back there? And he goes, it's one of my favorite restaurants. But now I'm like, well, that was a pain. He's a big barbecuer. So he got a special from a barbecue store that sold accessories. I mean, it was where he bought his barbecue, which was some, I don't know, whiz-bangy barbecue. But he bought this, it was an accessory to a barbecue that was like $100, but they were offering a coupon, and they remembered, it was very personal. It was like, hi Bob, we know you have the WYSIWYG barbecue, and you may or may not realize that this soapstone cleaner, whatever it did, is a great accessory for that. We're offering a coupon right now. So they personalized the message to him. It wasn't just a mass blast, hey, we're doing 5% off everything. They knew he had made a purchase from them and what the purchase was. He said, and they got me. I was like, well, for 70 bucks, I will buy that. It was 100. I didn't want to buy it at 100, but for 70, I'll buy it. So that's where it comes into, like, they really knew their customer, and they targeted that follow-up marketing. The other thing he suggested was your customers who are hanging with you right now, offering them in like a business to business sense. So going and saying, we appreciate your business. So right now, we're going to offer you a VIP package where you bought $100 worth of service from us this month. I'm going to give you $200 worth of service, right? And he said, really offering back to those customers. And so that was the example he gave. He said, but, do the money however you can do it. But basically, and then even going back to every customer you've had in the last year and say, even if people have left and said, last year you spent $3,000 with us. Right now we're offering a VIP special to previous customers. We're going to give you 10% of what you spent with us last year in this time, right? And it could be a product, that could be a service. So that resonated for me as a service business to other businesses. What could I offer in this time, right? But the reality is, like, I have more of a hobby side business where my mom and I make greeting cards and little home decor things. Well, I could go and we have a handful of people that have bought cards from us more than once. I could easily send them a box of condolence cards and how are you doing cards, because right now everybody's going to have someone they need a condolence card for and someone they need a how are you doing card for. And I could send that and just say, because as card makers, I probably have, 500 sitting in the garage to be sold that we've made just because we're crafters and we make them even if we never sell them. But that would be a way to send something out. Like Kim has always has little tchotchkes from the show on too, or even her free stuff that she bought with her name. If some customer, in other words, if boxing a little thing of goodies and saying, here's samples of the order for you right now. By the way, there's some roses because people aren't ordering tchotchkes, right? And Kim sent that out to her top 5 customers who spend money, costing her money to go to the post office and box it and send it. But if you think about that more as a marketing expense of how do you reach out to those customers and stay connected with them, it'd be a great way to use extra inventory, maybe some older stuff that you have hanging around. When we used to do Mary Kay, like right now, I would just send out a whole box of samples to people when I did Mary Kay, and be like, hey, everybody wants to pamper themselves. Let me know if you're running low on anything. So to do that without taking a huge loss, but be more top of mind. I can tell you right now, the email blast, how are you doing during COVID? Forget it. Don't even do it. And I say that because like I said, I follow a couple different venture capitalists, and this one venture capitalist who is the founder of Reddit said, did I actually sign up for all these newsletters? Like, I keep getting emails and newsletters for groups. I'm like, I have no memory of signing up for this. And the whole discussion after his tweet was, yeah, they really care. How am I surviving? What are you doing during COVID? I don't even remember who these businesses are. So obviously, you don't actually know if I'm your customer. You're just blasting me with stuff, either trying to get business or make yourself relevant. And in either case, it's not worth it. So I think we need to be mindful of how we're using marketing. So those were just some of the things I learned this week. Oh, the other thing is ask your people for reviews. Do you know what I mean? Like, make a little email, send it out to 5 or 6 people, and you give them the link right directly to where they can review you, and not just on Facebook. If you're on Yelp, if you're on on Google, wherever you may be, and ask those customers, hey, like, maybe they can't afford to buy your item right now, but would they be willing to go do a review for you? It's kind of one of those things we think we're doing, and then we don't get around to doing it, and now we don't have any excuse for not doing it. Trying to think if there were any other little goody tidbits I last week.